Welcome to the first lecture on Nazi social policies. In today's lecture, we will examine how did the life of women change during the Nazi regime. In the first section, we will examine what life was like for women during the Weimar years, before the Nazis came to power. We will then examine the Nazi ideology for what made a perfect Aryan woman. Then we will move on to the key social policies that the Nazis put into place to ensure that women conformed to their ideology. Finally, we will examine how their lives changed after the outbreak of World War II. Women were given far more freedom during the golden years of the late 1920s. This is because the American flapper culture moved over to Weimar Germany. Young women, especially those who lived in the capital of Berlin, enjoyed the bustling nightlife of jazz music and dancing. They also indulged in the fashion trends associated with the flapper culture, such as smoking and wearing dramatic makeup. Young women were also given more opportunities in education, including the chance to attend university. This meant they were likely to get married later. As a result of their university education, more women were entering professional careers. This includes teachers, doctors, university lecturers, and even some lawyers and business owners. However, as a result of this, women were choosing to start a family later. During the Weimar years, birth rates dropped, which meant the population did not grow as fast as it had during the Kaiser years. This was seen as a problem to the Nazi Party as they wanted high birth rates in order to raise a new generation of loyal followers, especially boys who would become soldiers in the army. Let's now examine the Nazi ideology for women. During the Nazi era, women were expected to fulfill traditional roles centered on family and motherhood. The Nazi ideology promoted the idea of women as homemakers, nurturing mothers, and bearers of racially pure children to support the growth of the Aryan population. They were encouraged to prioritize their roles within the household, supporting their husbands and raising children to strengthen the Nazi state. This ideology was put together in the slogan of Kinder, Küche, Kirche, meaning children, church and kitchen. Women were expected to embody the concept of the ideal German woman and contribute to society by producing children for the Reich. Career opportunities were limited for women, and they were encouraged to stay at home rather than pursue professional or intellectual endeavors. Some women liked this return to traditional values since it meant less pressure on them to go to work and pursue a career. However, others hated it. All women that worked for the government, such as teachers and civil servants, were fired from their jobs. There was then huge societal pressure for them to produce large families, which would over time take its toll on their physical and mental health. The Nazi Party also believed that the Weimar Republic encouraged women to live a decadent lifestyle. They therefore said that the ideal Aryan woman should not wear makeup or cut her hair short, she should not attend nightclubs or evening entertainment, and she should not smoke. Instead, she should wear modest dress and live at home until she was ready to get married. This is the front cover image for Frauenwort, a Nazi magazine for women. It was published in 1939 as the Mother's Day issue. You can see the mother has 3 children, the implication being that German mothers were expected to have large families. She is also wearing conservative and modest dress. In the background is the German countryside. The Nazi Party encouraged women and families to spend time out in the countryside to promote health and fitness. Let's now examine the different social policies that provided as incentives to women to marry younger and to have a large family. Firstly, The Nazi regime awarded medals to women who upheld the ideals of motherhood and contributed to the expansion of the Aryan population. Medals like the Mother's Cross recognized women who bore multiple children. A Bronze Cross was awarded to women who had 5 children. The Silver Cross was awarded to women who had 7 children. And the Gold Cross, which was presented to the woman by the Führer himself, was for mothers who bore 8 or more children. The Nazi regime also offered marriage loans, known as the Marriage Loan Program. This provided financial incentives to couples who adhered to Nazi racial criteria. The interest-free loans encouraged unions deemed racially desirable, supporting couples who married and committed to upholding Nazi ideologies of pure Aryan unions. For every child they had, the loan repayment would be reduced. If they had 4 or more children, then the loan would not need to be repaid. The Nazi regime also used youth groups to indoctrinate teenage girls. The German League of Maidens was a Nazi organization for girls aged 14 to 18. It aimed to prepare them for their roles in Nazi society, emphasizing traditional gender roles, loyalty to the regime, and physical fitness. The League sought to mold young girls into future mothers and supporters of the Nazi state, promoting obedience to Nazi ideology and preparing them for their roles in raising the next generation of the Aryan race. The Nazis believed in the concept of a physically and mentally superior Aryan race. Physical fitness was seen as crucial in cultivating this master race. They promoted athleticism and fitness as characteristics of the ideal Aryan individual. The League aimed to prepare girls for their roles as future mothers and caregivers. Physical fitness was considered essential for healthy childbearing and raising strong, healthy children who could contribute to the expansion and strength of the Aryan population. Physical fitness activities fostered a sense of camaraderie and unity among members of the League of Maidens. Group exercises and sports were used as tools for ideological indoctrination and bonding, reinforcing loyalty to Nazi ideals and fostering a sense of belonging to the Nazi community. The school curriculum was also manipulated to teach girls the Nazi ideology from a young impressionable age. This is an extract from a biology textbook written in 1942 and is very subtle in the way it teaches young girls about their future role as mothers. The text says, "All living creatures that succeed in the struggle for survival are not satisfied merely with existence, but seek to preserve their species as well." Here too is a drive that corresponds to natural law. Without this drive, species would long since have vanished. The fox builds a den for its helpless young and cares for them. The deer cares for its fawns, and the bat even carries its young with it through the air. Each spring we watch with fascination as the birds cleverly build their nests, hatch their eggs, and untiringly feed their young. This biology lesson is designed to teach young girls that it is their natural duty to care for their children, and this should be prioritized over any personal desires or needs. These social policies were a success, as these statistics show. The Nazi regime were able to increase birth rates from under 1 million a year to 1.5 million births per year. However, the number of births per year never reached the same level as during the Kaiser years. The birth rates would of course radically decline once all the men were conscripted to the army following the outbreak of World War II. The Lebensborn program was set up by Heinrich Himmler, the leader of the SS. It was a program designed to encourage the birth of racially pure Aryan children. They created special homes where unmarried women, especially those with desirable Aryan traits, could conceive a child through a liaison with an SS officer. It also provided a sanctuary where they could give birth with support and without the social stigma of being the mother of an illegitimate child. The program also involved adopting or fostering children from occupied territories to assimilate them into Nazi ideology. Let's now examine the impact that World War II had on the lives of women. War broke out in September 1939, and this meant that all men aged 18 to 35 were conscripted into the army. This meant that women were now encouraged to go back to work in order to maintain production in the munition factories and to harvest enough food for the soldiers. During World War II, German women played a crucial role in the workforce, especially in factories, filling positions left by men sent to the front line. They contributed to war production, working in industries manufacturing weapons, munitions, and supplies essential to the war effort. This shift marked a significant departure from traditional gender roles, as women became integral to sustaining the country's economy and military operations. Their labor was pivotal in supporting the war machinery, reflecting a temporary but vital shift in societal expectations and women's contributions to the economy. Women also played critical roles in agricultural production in the countryside. With many men serving in the military, women took on responsibilities previously held by men on farms. They managed fields, tended livestock, and harvested crops to ensure a steady food supply for the nation amidst wartime shortages. Their labor sustained agricultural production, contributing significantly to feeding the population and supporting the war effort. This is a front cover from Frauenwort, the same Nazi women's magazine that I showed you earlier. This time it is for a year later in April 1940. We see a woman plowing the field with a factory in the background. The implication now is that women need to return to work. The silhouette of the soldier is a reminder of why their role within the Reich has now changed. Let's now return to the overarching question of how did the life of women change during the Nazi regime? Firstly, it is worth remembering what their life was like before. Many women, especially those living in Berlin, enjoyed greater freedom under the Weimar government. This meant they could go out and enjoy the bustling nightlife of the capital city, but it also meant they could go to university and pursue a professional career. However, the Nazi Party believed that the cultural boom of the late 1920s eroded traditional family values. Instead, they believed the ideal woman should wear modest and plain clothing and should stay at home looking after the household. Most importantly, they believed that a woman's primary role in society was to be a mother. Therefore, they put in place a number of social policies to restrict the rights of women and to provide incentives for them to marry young and have large families. For example, they fired all women from government jobs, but they provided medals called the Mother's Cross to all women who had 5 or more children. However, their lives changed dramatically once World War II broke out, since there was now expectation for them to return to work, either in the munition factories or in farming, in order to contribute to the war effort. For many women, it was a struggle to balance this new role while also having a large family of children. Thank you for listening. Tune into the next lecture to examine the social policies aimed at the youth.